Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvajakacharya Astar Sata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Skaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Ki Jai Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Dwarka Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Srimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 1, The Advent of Lord Krishna, Introduction, Text 20. Tatra Gatva Jagannatam Deva Devam Vishakapim Purusham Purushasuktena Upataste Samahitaha Tatra Gatva Jagannatam Deva Devam Vrishakapim Purusham Purushasuktena Upataste Samahitaha Tatra Gatva Jagannatam Deva Devam Vrishakapim Purusham Purushasuktena Upataste Samahitaha Tatra Gatva Jagannatam Deva Devam Vrishakapim Purusham Purushasuktena Upataste Samahitaha. Purushasuktena Samahita Anjanata Deva Deva Vrishakapim Purusham Purushasuktena Samahita Tatra Jagannatam Deva Deva Vrishakapim Purusham Purushasuktena Upataste Samahita Tatra Jagannatam Devam Vrishakapim Shampursa Suktena Sase Samahita. Vaishnavis. Tatra Gatva Jananata. Deva Deva Vishakabim. Purusha Purusha Suktena. Sase Samahita. Tatra, there, on the shore of the ocean of milk. Gatva, after going. Jagannatam, unto the master of the entire universe, the Supreme Being. Deva Deva, the Supreme God of all gods. Vishakapim, the Supreme Person, Vishnu, who provides for everyone and diminishes everyone's suffering. Purusha, the Supreme Person, Purusha Suktena, with the Vedic mantra known as Purusha Sukta. Upataste, worshipped. Samahitaha, with full attention. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation: after reaching the shore of the ocean of milk, the demigods worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the Master of the whole universe, the Supreme God of all gods, who provides for everyone and diminishes everyone's suffering. With great attention, they worship Lord Vishnu, who lies on the ocean of milk, by reciting the Vedic mantras known as the Purusha Sukta. Please repeat. After reaching the shore of the ocean of milk, the demigods worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the Master of the whole universe, the Supreme God of all gods, who provides for everyone and diminishes everyone's suffering. With great attention, they worship Lord Vishnu, who lies on the ocean of milk, by reciting the Vedic mantras known as the Purusha Sukta. Purport: the demigods, such as Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, King Indra, Chandra, and Surya, are all subordinates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Aside from the demigods, even in human society, there are many influential personalities supervising various businesses or establishments. Lord Vishnu, however, is the God of gods, Parameshvara. He is the Parama Purusha, the Supreme Being, Paramatma, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita, Brahma Samhita 5.1, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. Quote, Krishna, known as Govinda, is the Supreme Controller. He has an eternal, blissful spiritual body, end quote. No one is equal to or greater than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he is described by many words: Jagannatha, Deva Deva, Vrishakapi, and Purusha. The supremacy of Lord Vishnu is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 10.12 in this statement by Arjuna: Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam, Adi Devam Ajam Vibhum. Quote, you are the supreme Brahman, the ultimate, the supreme abode and purifier, the absolute truth, and the eternal divine person. You are the primal God, transcendental and original, and you are the unborn, all-pervading beauty, end quote. Krishna is Adi Purusha, the original personality of Godhead. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Vishnu is a plenary expansion of Lord Krishna, and all the Vishnu tattvas are Parameshvara Deva Deva. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The verse again. After reaching the shore of the ocean of milk, the demigods worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the Master of the whole universe, the Supreme God of all gods, who provides for everyone and diminishes everyone's suffering. With great attention, they worship Lord Vishnu, who lies on the ocean of milk, by reciting the Vedic mantras known as the Purusha Sukta. So, why is there a universe? Why are there demigods? And why are they praying to Lord Vishnu? The reason there is a material universe is that there are some jivas, some souls who are not fit to exist in the spiritual world. Each soul is actually part and part of Krishna. Mamaivam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, all souls, they are part of me, they are eternal. But now, manasastindriyani prakritishtani karshati. But now they are not in their normal condition. They are struggling with the material energy, with the material mind and the material body. So, because some souls are not fit to exist in the spiritual world, Krishna manifests a material universe, actually many material universes, for those souls to exist in. Because in the spiritual world, only one thing is going on: pure, unmotivated, loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in cooperation with all other pure, loving, devotee servants of the Supreme Lord. If a soul has adopted an attitude of trying to be the supreme enjoyer himself, herself, then such souls are not fit to exist in the spiritual world. There has to be some other place for them to act out their desires. Krishna Bahir Mukahana Bhogavanchakare Nikatashta Mayatare Japati Adare. When this is from something called the Prema Vivarta, quoted several times by Srila Prabhupada, when the soul turns from Krishna, Maya is there to grab that soul. And there's a material universe for that soul to exist in. So, there's a material universe because some souls are not fit to exist in the spiritual world. And there has to be some arrangement in that material universe so it will go on. It's manifested ultimately by an expansion of Krishna called Mahavishnu. The Mahavishnu lies on the causal ocean. When the Mahavishnu breathes out, so many universes emerge from his transcendental body. When he breathes in, the universes come back in. So when he breathes out and the universes emerge from his body, he enters into each universe as the Garbhodakshai Vishnu and lies in an ocean that occupies the bottom part of each universe, called the Garbha Ocean. Therefore, he's called Garbhodakshai Vishnu, the Vishnu who lies on the Garbha Ocean. And from his navel, a lotus flower sprouts, and on the top of that lotus flower, the first demigod, Brahma, is manifested. And Brahma has the task of manifesting the different planetary systems for the conditioned souls to occupy, and the different kinds of bodies for the conditioned souls to occupy. Jivaras Rupahoy Krishnera Nityadas, Lord Chaitanya explains, the natural constitutional form of the soul is eternal servant of Krishna. So each soul has an eternal spiritual form, but it's only good for one thing, serving Krishna. If the soul wants to do something else, enjoy itself separately from Krishna, it can't do it with its swarupa, its original spiritual form, because that original spiritual form is meant for only one thing, rendering transcendental loving service to Krishna. So therefore, Krishna, through his demigod agents, manifests different material forms for the soul to occupy. Dehinosmin yata dehe. In Bhagavad Gita we learn the soul is placed within a body. And that body is not the real body of this, it's not the swarupa, the original spiritual form of the soul. It's a form manifested out of material elements. And the soul falsely identifies with it by ahankara, false ego. The soul falsely identifies with the material body, and it uses that material body to act within a certain planet in the material universe. Brahma manifests different planets, hellish planets, earthly planets, heavenly planets. So, according to the kinds of desires that the soul manifests, it is placed in a particular body, a plant body, an animal body, a human body, a demigod body, a demon body, in a particular loka. Loka means planet. It also is related to the word location. So the conditioned souls are placed in particular bodies, in particular places within the material universe. But the real purpose of the whole arrangement is for the soul to gradually come to understand its real nature and go back home, back to Godhead, go back to the spiritual world. Of course, if it doesn't want to do that, there's an arrangement for that soul to continue to try to enjoy itself separately from Krishna within the material universe. But Krishna really wants all the souls to go back home, back to Godhead. So there has to be a whole big arrangement for the maintenance of all these souls within the material world, and also an arrangement for them to go back home, back to Godhead. So as far as the material arrangements are concerned, those are taken care of by the demigods, as Srila Prabhupada was mentioning in the purport. They're subordinate to Krishna. They are jiva souls, but they have responsibilities for either, like Lord Brahma, producing the bodies and the planetary systems, or like the sun god and the moon god, providing light, providing heat, providing the energy that generates all the plants and things of that sort. There's a whole arrangement, and like Srila Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport, just like in the material world, we can see that there are so many responsible personalities who have positions operating different businesses and establishments, maybe government establishments. Or even in this temple, there are so many responsible persons who are carrying out different duties. You know, for example, there's a personality who arranges the class schedule to make sure there's somebody giving a class each morning and evening. And there's a personality in charge of the deity department, making sure that the deity worship is going on and the deities are nicely dressed each day. There are personalities in charge of the kitchen department that make sure there is prasadam each day for the devotees and for the general public when it's distributed to them. So there are personalities in charge of the housing, the housing department, making sure that everything is maintained. So there are devotees in charge of the preaching that goes on, the Harinam parties, the festivals, like the Jagannath festival, Ratha Yatra each year, or the normal festivals that take place in the temple each Sunday, the book distribution, book production. There are personalities in charge of all of these activities. So within the universe at large, there are also personalities in charge of these various activities. And when things are going fine, when everything is going properly according to the system that Krishna has set up, then that's okay. But occasionally, the system begins to break down a little bit. And at that time, Krishna has to make some adjustments. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhutanam hi dharmasya tadatmanam srajamyaham. So, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati. Dharma means when everything is running according to the principles, the spiritual principles. But when those principles become glani, become deteriorated, then abhutanam dharmasya, then the principles of irreligion, adharma, become dominant. They start to increase. And that means the whole system that Krishna has set up begins to become disturbed. The system is, yes, a material universe is there for the conditioned souls who aren't fit to exist in the world, but they are to be trained. They are to be given proper knowledge so that they can become fit to occupy their natural position in the spiritual world. And there's a system for that. The principles of Dharma are taught. Evam parampara praptam imam rijarshayo vidu. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, he gives the principles of Dharma to great spiritual teachers who establish paramparas, lines of disciplic succession. And the great kings, the leaders of society, they understand these principles and they disseminate them among the general mass of people. That is the normal system. But when that breaks down and people begin to propagate irreligious principles and behave in that way, then Krishna has to make some adjustment. And even the demigods themselves, they can understand that something is wrong. Like in this case, Bhumi, the goddess of the earth, has detected something's wrong, and she's gone to Lord Brahma, and with the other demigods, they're going to approach Lord Vishnu. And to get the attention of Lord Vishnu, the super soul of the universe, the Chirodakshai Vishnu, who lives on the milk ocean, they are going to chant the Purusha Sukta prayers, which come from the Rig Veda. They're kind of like a chapter of the Rig Veda. And there are, Srila Prabhupada said those Purusha Sukta prayers, they should be chanted when deities are installed, especially, he says that in one of his purports in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And some of our devotees, they have memorized that Purusha Sukta prayer from the Rig Veda, like our Sura Prabhu, he knows it, the complete thing, memorized. So, they are trying to get the attention of the Supreme Personality of Godhead so he can make whatever adjustment is needed. So, the demigods are there as the assistants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And, the Vaishnavas, they understand this, but sometimes it happens, there are some people, they forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Aham adir hi devanam, I am the source of the demigods. And they are there to perform certain functions in the universe. In the 3rd chapter, I believe, of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, in the beginning of creation, I send forth generations of men and demigods along with sacrifice. So, or yajna. So that is the arrangement of the personality of Godhead. He sends forth generations of living entities, he sends forth the demigods, and he sends forth yajna, the process of sacrifice. So and Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, if people perform sacrifice, they will get all of their material necessities very nicely, and then they'll be able to concentrate on putting most of their human energy into going back home, back to Godhead. But, sometimes people, they forget the first thing, that Krishna is the source of the demigods, and they forget the whole purpose, and they want to worship these demigods simply to get more and more material things, more than necessary. So that is not recommended. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna explains, Bahunam janmanam ante gyanavam man prapadyante vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sadurlabhaha. That an intelligent person, if he considers the situation very carefully, will come to conclude there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead who is the source and controller of everything. Unfortunately, Krishna says, such people are a bit rare. And the next verse in the Bhagavad Gita is Kamastaistar Hrityajnana Prapadyanti Anyadevataha. Unfortunately, there are those who are victimized by kama, their desire to enjoy more than is proper in their situation. And such people, they approach these other gods, Anya Devataha, other gods besides me. But Krishna explains, actually, that's not wise, because actually they're my servants. Everything is ultimately coming from me. Antavat tupalam te sham, tad bhavita alpamedasam, devan deva yajo yanti, mad bhakta yanti mamapi. So, antavat tupalam te sham, the material things that they're trying to get from the demigods, the benedictions they're trying to get from the demigods, they are temporary. Yes, we all have some material needs. We should try to satisfy them in the most simple and natural way possible, but that's not the ultimate purpose of human life, to accumulate more and more material things, to try to control more and more material things. That's not the ultimate purpose. So, even if you do that, the best you could, the best situation you could get is you could get the position of a demigod yourself. But even then, that position is temporary. So Krishna explains, Mad Bhakta Yanti Mamapi. My devotees, they will come to me. They will come to my abode. Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatvataha tyaktva deham punar janma naitimam. Yes. So, you'll come to me if you understand my appearance and pastimes. You'll come to me. So that is the purpose of this whole arrangement. This material world is like a little virtual reality system that Krishna has set up for souls that aren't fit to exist in the spiritual world, and he's made a nice system so that they can gradually become reformed and they can qualify themselves to go to their real condition of life in the spiritual world. But if the system becomes messed, and it's always possible for the system to become messed up a little bit, because souls have free will, and they can either choose to make spiritual advancement or they can choose to avoid it. And if enough of them choose to avoid their real responsibilities, then the system becomes messed up. It creates problems for the demigods, who are supposed to be maintaining that system on Krishna's behalf. And when they experience difficulties, they go to the ocean of milk and ask Krishna what should be done. And Krishna is going to explain in this case that he is going to come personally. Sometimes Krishna does that. He comes personally as an avatar. So that is the larger situation, what is happening here. I'll stop there. Does anybody have any question or comment? Yes, Drutakarma Prabhu.
Prabhu, thank you for a wonderful class. I know nothing, but I can't help but think that Srila Prabhupada would be in ecstasy hearing one of his disciples present the philosophy so nicely, so accurately, in such an interesting and insightful way. Thank you. My question is this. I noticed that when you were referring to the Purusha avatars, you did so preceded by use of the article the. So, like the Kshirodaksha Vishnu, the Garbhodaksha Vishnu, the Karanaдаksha Vishnu. I was just wondering if there was any particular reason why you were doing that. Just out of curiosity.
No particular reason, just habit, I guess. Just like we say, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it's a name of a position. You know, the Supreme Lord.
So is it like a post then? That's what I didn't, you know, is it kind of like, you know, Brahma's a post? Is it sort of like something that...
Well, we don't say the Brahma.
Right.
But I guess it's just, it wasn't intentional, but I've seen it used like that occasionally. But if you think it's not appropriate, I can try to stop from, just like, I put it in the same category as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Lord, something like that. Whereas when we say Krishna, we don't say the Krishna, because that's his name. That's how I would say it. Yes, you had...
Drutakarma Prabhu, I have the book which called Forbidden Archaeology, which you took part in writing it, and I always had a question. It is actually related to this lecture where you were talking about the people who are actually in charge of these societies all over the world, and my question is, why this evidence that you actually found, that was in archaeology, that was proved that it proves that Vedic, that we all came from God, basically it contributes to that. Why is it forbidden? And who in the society resist to accept the truth, even though there is evidence, and why? What is the reason? And why would they do that? And what would happen if they would accept? And what is your insight on that?
Okay, we don't have much. I can't give you a full answer, but I'll just say a couple of things. Of course, we have to remember in that book, I was simply trying to give illustrations of a fact that's mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. Like I said, Krishna said, in the very beginning of creation, I sent forth generation of men and demigods. So that means the creation has a purpose. It's not simply to produce and consume more and more material things. It's like to go back home, back to Godhead. In the age of Kali, things have become very materialistic, and society is arranged in a different way. In Vedic civilization, society was arranged so that people would satisfy their material needs in the most simple, natural, and efficient way possible, while putting most of their human energy into developing their Krishna consciousness, preparing themselves to go back home, back to Godhead. So that means there's a purpose to human life, there's a purpose to this whole universe, there's something more than matter. Now, if you've got a society that's based on thinking that there is no, just like Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, asatyama pratishtam te jagat ahur anishvaram. If you think there's no God in control of the universe, if you think matter is the only thing that exists, and therefore you're going to try to explain everything in terms of matter combining, which means you're not going to have human beings in the very beginning. In the very beginning, you're just going to have atoms. molecules. And if you're going to get human beings, well, you're going to have to get them in some way that doesn't involve God, that doesn't involve the necessity of having a soul. So, and they've got a system like that. The modern materialistic scientists have developed an understanding how you get human beings without God, without a soul, and they've developed a whole way of life based on an understanding, a whole political, economic, financial, social, and cultural system that they're very heavily invested in. And they want to keep it like that. So therefore, they resist things which point to the existence of some higher purpose in life. So that's basically it. That's the short answer. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.